So welcome everybody to this week's coaching clinic, where you're going to get a taste of the spiritual marketing approach that you've been hearing about from myself and my lovely colleague and dear friend Stef. So we're delighted to have you here today, and I think what we'll do to just commence really is I'll talk a little bit about the spiritual marketing approach and why we're so passionate about it, and how it's transformed our business, our experience of business, and our clients' experience of business too. So this session is recorded today. It will be available as a recording. And I think that's all you need to know for now. Steph, let's open up. Do you want to share a little bit about just what you're seeing as the beauty of the spiritual marketing approach, and what it is for those that are just hearing about it for the first time? We'll do a little bit of setting the table with that, and then we'll open up to your questions for live coaching.
Okay. So going back to when I first became a coach, I might have told this story before, but I was coming from a design background. I've been taught to believe that I needed to have a sort of a very solid idea of how I was going to market my business, how I was going to talk about my clients, who my clients were going to be, where they were going to be, and how much revenue, how much they would be able to support my business. And I think that very early on, I found that when I tried to rely on my marketing ability, my ability to write copy, my ability to get seen on social media and to be regular with, sort of videos and podcasts and blogs and that sort of thing, I struggled. And not only did I struggle, but I didn't seem that people weren't kind of responding to anything that I was creating in terms of content out there. And what turned it around for me was I began to see how much I had approached this whole idea of creating a coaching business as, this is about me, this is about my visibility, this is about my expertise, and this is about impressing people. And I saw that I just wasn't really very good at that. and then as a result of that, I didn't really get anybody coming to me, no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much content I put out there, it just wasn't working. So I gave up on the idea of becoming a coach, and I decided that I would just share the understanding that I was coaching with people, just to be helpful, just where I saw people that it could possibly help in their lives. I decided just to do that, and I was going to carry on in my design business. And as soon as I gave up on the idea of creating this business for myself out of a desire, to support myself, and it became about being of service to people, it seems like everything changed. When it became less about me selling to somebody, and it became about me genuinely wanting to get to see their world, get to understand them, get to listen to them from a deeper place, then I noticed that people responded to that. So what I found is that my business has kind of grown without me. In my absence, it's kind of grown. And I found that just the more that I show up with people and have a conversation, I mean, it doesn't mean I don't do the other stuff, but to me, where the rubber hits the road is when we are present with somebody, when we are not trying to impress them, not trying to give them how good we are and show them all our qualifications. It's about the client, really getting to understand the client, listening deeply to them, and then being of service to them, giving them an experience of what it's like for them to work with us, and then servicing the hell out of them, even before they take us on, you know, going kind of beyond their expectations and just really showing them how committed we are to being of service. And what I found with that is that, see, most of my clients come from referral. And I think what happens is I don't ask people to refer me. What happens is if I go beyond what their expectations are, then they notice. It's as simple as that. They just notice that, then they're surprised by it. And then that gets them talking about it. So for me, it all happens in the conversation. People make that decision when they know what it's like to work with us. They make that decision when they know that it's about them and not us. It's really simple.
Love that. And that's the beauty here, isn't it? It's like that simplicity is key. I was reflecting a little bit on, you know, just what you were saying there, Steph, about, you know, in your head, it was about creating a coaching business. And for so many people, it's about creating a business. And innocently can get lost in the creation of a business versus being of service. And when I look at my own journey, I see that the common denominator to all opportunity, success, referral, possibility has been that place of service. And when we're coming from that place, it's felt, it's different than coming from a place of need. You know, I had a message this week from somebody interested in our approach, and she was kind of a bit gobsmacked, and some of you might be too, because she said, well, you know, surely it's not about just showing up and sharing your wisdom or being of service. Surely it's about appearing to be an expert, appearing glamorous, appearing to have it all figured out. And the innocence of that remark, you know, that was my initial journey too. I bought into the illusion that it was about credentials or income level or how good your website looked. You know, I bought into that what I describe as that American hustle. Of course, it's not unique to America, but I bought into that, and as a result of that, kind of lost my way a bit. And yet, when I think back to the initial stages of getting into a coaching business in the first place, I was just so hungry to serve. I didn't care if you paid me or not. I was just so hungry to serve, to be of service, to be used. There is something so delicious about being used in a way that is fulfilling. You know, when I think about it now, feelings of aliveness, feelings of purpose, feelings of inspiration, feelings of well-being. Well, I want more of that. And I have found that as we go in this direction of service and humans, giving humans something that is deeply needed at this time, then all those things show up, including the income, including the possibility of doubling our income and tripling it if you want. I was listening to Michael Neal this morning and his lovely share about, you know, double the results with half the effort. And the old me would have said, what? That sounds like a joke. What's that? But this approach is practical, and this approach has taught me that, yes, in fact, it's not just about giving a great service in the world. It's actually the rewards, including income and well-being, are for the taking. So there's something that really struck me, Stef, about finding this approach at a time when I felt lost and fell out of love with what I was doing. And I know some of our listeners, certainly on the replay as well, are in that stage or at that stage where the joy is missing. And that's part of the key, you know, when we talk about spiritual marketing. What drives it is your enjoyment of what you're doing. Giving a service you love, you're lit up by, not a service that you think will work or you think the marketplace needs or you see everybody else giving, so you better give it that way, but a service that you deeply enjoy. So I just wanted to share that little bit, because for me, spiritual marketing hasn't just been about increase in income and client flow and referral and all of that lovely jazz. It's been about feelings of well-being, enjoyment, and aliveness. So yeah.
Love that. I was just reminds me of something that Steve Chandler said, who teaches coaches, and he was saying something about, so if I have to wake up on a Monday morning and in my head I think, oh, I have to do 4 hours of selling, you know, I feel like I want to get another job. But if I wake up on a Monday morning and I have 4 hours of being of service, of being in a conversation with people, having like a deep exploration into them and what makes them tick, how they see the world, how it's possible for them to affect transformation. If I have that in my head, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I can do that all day long, every day. Yeah. And that's how it looks to me. That's how it looks to me.
Well, and that's such a key point, Stef, too, just before we open up to questions. You know, going back to that idea, like you were sharing earlier, when it was about creating a business, it was effortful for you. And I see that a lot with people that come to me, this creation of a business versus having conversations with people that are helpful and lead to results. And that's such a distinction, you know, having the conversations a bit like today, giving people a taste of what you're up to in the world, moves the needle forward, and that that lack of attachment to the outcome, you know, rather than having conversations with a gun to your head, like we said last time, having conversations from a place of curiosity, enjoyment of sharing what you've seen. You want to talk to us a little bit more about that piece, Steph, just, you know, why it is the conversation counts in the spiritual marketing approach to business?
So what I've seen is in the coaching conversation, what we say is that ideally we show up with nothing on our mind. You know, we don't have an attachment to any particular outcome. We don't have an agenda about what we think people should see. We show up in a space of non-judgment, and we show up in a space of settled quiet, you know. And that space is our best demonstration of what it's possible, or what it's like to spend time in a space of in the space where we are at our most powerful, our most kind, our most loving, our most resourceful, our most peaceful, the place where we get the answers to what we're looking for. If we show up in that space with people in a coaching conversation, they have the opportunity to slow down and touch that space themselves. They have the opportunity to be woken up to that space when they've been going crazy, you know, and they'll slow down until they reach a point where they're in their natural mind speed. They're in their most natural place. And that space it's the most powerful space that you can imagine. And when people feel it, that wakes up in them. Now, what I found is that in the coaching conversation, it's hugely powerful. And I've also found that it's hugely powerful when we're talking to relatives, when we're talking to loved ones, when we're in the space of enrolling new clients. It's hugely, hugely powerful. And I would go as far as to say they have an experience of working with us in that space that they don't have the opportunity to experience anywhere else. And as Michael Neal once said, you know, when people touch that space, they want more of it, because that's what we're all looking for. Ultimately, that's the space that we thrive in, and that's the space where there is the most love, there is the most compassion, there is the most kindness, and there is the most genius. And it's available to us everywhere else, as well as a coaching session. So for me, to show up in that space for an enrollment conversation, there is nothing more powerful.
Well, and it's an alignment, right? Like, as I hear, just putting my own words to it, Steph, but what we're pointing to here is alignment. You know, when people kind of go, how did you do that? It's very hard to put into words, but if we have to put it into words, it's, you know, as we are in alignment, the world can't help but notice. And I said this last time, a bit like dogs, we all scent, we catch a scent of alignment, and we're chasing it like a dog chasing a scent until we finally reach that in ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, so
when
yeah.
It's like when we're in that space, when we're connected to another human being, no matter what the circumstances are, that aspect of service is that we're walking people home.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything more powerful.
I'm touching wisdom too. You know, that's been my experience, is people touch their wisdom in that space versus their insecure mind coming up with another good idea for their business to work out or to get better or to increase. You know, that space of wisdom and just, like you said, genius. Yeah, wow, how did you do that? How did you come up with that? Well, you know, and we want to invite you to the possibility of that space. You know, before we open up to questions, you know, we have been touched by that space in the form of retreating with our coaches. We have experienced that space time and time again as we have entered into a container of depth and exploration that wasn't rushed and wasn't kind of led by the intellect of the person in charge. And so we have this space for you. We have this opportunity for you to come and join us, to experience that, to go deeper, to take your own spiritual marketing that you all have. This isn't unique to Stef and I, to take your own spiritual marketing and bring it alive in your business. So before we open up to questions, I want you to be able to have the more info on that. So I've just sent it to you. You can open up the page and keep it for later to have a look at, but I've sent it to you now, just more info on that opportunity to come into the space with us and to really be deeply supported in seeing something fresh that moves your business forward, and dare I say it, with half the effort and double the results, because that's what's on offer. Shall we open up, Stef? Shall we open up and let people come in?
Stef and I
aren't in a rush today, so if this goes on a bit, like if we want to go past the top of the hour, we can. If you need to leave, that's okay. Please don't feel rushed when you ask your question. We're here for you. So any questions that you have, nothing is a bad question. Anything you want to comment on, join us. Let's interact. Let's experience some of the spiritual marketing way. And you can just either unmute yourself, or I don't think you have to put your hand up, but if you want to, you can. Kevin.
I'm not sure that this is a question, but I'll just talk for a minute or two and then see where we end up. But for those of you that don't know my background, I'm a GP and I'm transitioning into setting up a mental health coaching business. And I'm the first few paying clients that I've had, I've been able to charge a fee that I'm happy to work. Happy to work for. So I've not undercharged, and I haven't done anything at all to generate those clients. I couldn't have done any less in terms of my marketing to generate those clients. But I've still have this I have the time available to work with more clients than I'm currently able to help. And I'm coming at this from a place of service. I want to help more people, but my expertise is in helping people. It's not in marketing and and that side of things. And so, to me, it seems like a reasonable idea to actually have a system for generating targeted clients that are specific to the kind of niche that you work within, so that you're not spending time doing that. If you can set up a system that generates that kind of client for you, and then the first contact that you have with them is the telephone call, you're having connected conversations and serving people without having to spend hours and hours and hours doing marketing strategies that might not be helpful. So I mean, do you see that there's a tension between spiritual marketing and traditional marketing, Facebook ads to webinars and and that kind of thing? Be really grateful for your thoughts on that.
Good question. Do you want to take that, Grace?
Well, I can start, but I think Kevin can hear from both of us, right?
Yeah.
So Kevin, you probably notice I do both. Like, I don't just rely on the spiritual marketing. What I notice is through the spiritual marketing, my wisdom moves me to implement and to take action. Now, I don't have a system, as it were. I just have things I enjoy. Like, I like writing grace notes, as I call them. And I like creating space like this where people can come and get a taste of what I'm up to. So in that regard, I don't see a tension between the two. I just have noticed over time that cold Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, kind of a system that just gets people on the phone, hasn't always been particularly, hasn't always ended up in results. Hasn't always ended up in the same level of result as someone coming to you, like you mentioned earlier. You didn't do anything except be of service, and these people came, and I bet you didn't have any objections, and you didn't have anybody kind of querying or questioning you. They were ready to sign, So you want to let yourself use your wisdom for what sort of system you might want to put in place. And the system that I have seen that works and has worked for me over time is just making sure people are hearing from me in the form of a grace note or a Monday morning mantra or a webinar or a live video. Now, I happen to really enjoy teaching. I happen to really deeply enjoy switching on the Facebook Live and showing up. So I want to point you back again to, it's the enjoyment of what you're doing versus the system or the formula that really does matter.
Yeah, I kind of would go with that. I think, so for me, ever since I started, I've really enjoyed the conversation as we talk about it. And I think that I spend a lot of time in the conversation with people in the Three Principles community, as well as outside of the Three Principles community. And I think that people who are in that conversation with me, who resonate with what I'm saying and the way that I share, are, I'm really getting to see that the more I have that conversation in different communities, different meetup groups, different, you know, sort of interviews that I do and podcasts and that sort of thing. People who have an experience of me and relate to it are people who are my kind of client, if you see what I mean. So it feels to me like by the time I'm getting into the enrollment conversation with people, they're already, you know, they have a sense of what they're going to get, and they are open and alive to the conversation. They're ripe to it, you know. I think there are some people who are looking for a coach that are in, this is my own personal makeup, I've made this up, but it's how it feels to me that there are people that are ripe and there are people that maybe who aren't so ripe, maybe who aren't so open, who are looking for different ways of making change in their life. And so I'm finding that through being in the conversation with as many people as I can over a period of time, I'm finding that the people that are ripe, the people that resonate with the way I speak about the principles, are the ones that are attracted to me. And that makes it so much more, I really love the fact that people are that open with me. And I don't have to go through the process of some people who maybe don't resonate with the message as much as others. Does that make sense? It's less about quantity and more about ripeness, I think, for me. Does that make sense, Kevin?
Yeah, for sure, it makes sense. I mean, I guess, you know, for you guys who've been around, you know, longer, then you naturally will gain more exposure in, you know, in podcasts and interviews and, you know, collaborations and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, when you're new to the game, that clearly isn't the case, is it?
I would just say that when I first came to this, you know, there's no way that you would get me in front of a camera. There's no way you would get people interviewing me. But what I did do was I literally went through my email list over the last few years, and I just found people who might be interested in a conversation from that. And then that kind of, I don't know, it snowballed. The more conversations I had, the more other conversations I had, and it was a real learning curve for me. And it was really useful for me to be able to, you know, to be able to learn to articulate the principles in different ways with different people. And I would go, I mean, I'm still in contact with a lot of those people now. So I think for me that was a huge foundation to just have as many conversations as I could with people. It was a real learning curve for me because, you know, when I first started, I knew nothing. But the more I had the opportunity to articulate what little I was seeing, the more I saw, and that is huge. I don't think it's possible to overcome that bit. I think you have to go through that process of learning to articulate what you see and then making it fresh. And the only way that can happen is in conversation, I think.
Similarly, Kevin, just noticing when I like I arrived from a transition like you know, in both the big changes for me. One was a transition from a day job to a coaching business, and one was a transition from a way of coaching to this way of coaching. So both of those transitions were not sort of being known already and being around it long enough and being interviewed and having podcasts, you know, both of those transitions were starting afresh. In fact, I lost the majority of my client base when I had my big insight um, 5 years ago and declared, I can no longer teach you what I used to teach you, can no longer share with you what I used to share with you. So I had to start all over again. At least that was my experience, from scratch, growing a new client base that was more interested in the spiritual nature of results and change and success versus the tactics of results and success. So just watch the illusion that the mind takes us to about, it's different. I'm different. I'm the exception because I don't have what they have, or they've been in it long. We all have started afresh. And here's the beauty. I remember, Kevin, even before I had this insight or anything like that, I remember 10 clients in 30 days. I never forgot it. 10 clients in 30 days, because I was coming from the place that I hear you in. Oh, I've got more space to help people. Like that, I can't emphasize how important that is. And you shared it a little bit earlier. You want to help more people and you've got space to do so. It's going to sound too simple, but like A, that's enough, and B, your wisdom's going to point you in the direction of how that space gets filled up. And it's really not about being known or being in it long enough. Do you want to share something, Stef?
Well, I was just thinking, I used to think that I needed X amount of clients in order to fill my practice up. So I would be thinking in terms of numbers of clients, and I don't think this is particularly relevant to Kevin, but what really helped me in that situation was I only ever have to get one client at a time, and so for me, being able to focus, being able to kind of engage that wisdom that you were talking about, listening to the nudges, listening to who can I talk, who can I be of service to today, just one at a time, is much easier for me to get a sense of which, where to look for that conversation if I'm thinking in terms of one conversation at a time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it seems, for me, it just seems to make it a lot easier. Who can I be of service to today?
What are you hearing, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not coming at this at all from from a needy perspective. I don't need any extra income. With my work as a GP, I'm fortunate enough to have what I need through that. So, this is a new entity, a new business, and I've been around the whole sort of mental health thing, for 12 years as a GP. So, I just feel like I have more to give, And I'd like to work not with, I'm not trying to get 50 clients in the next 2 weeks. That's not what I'm trying to achieve. I just think that having some kind of system which helps that kind of process, so that my first involvement is more having a connected conversation with somebody rather than loads of other steps beforehand. It means I can focus my time on serving people and helping people rather than doing other things that I don't enjoy as much.
Yeah. And has anything come to you? Has any enjoyable idea come to you as a means of letting people know that a conversation is even available?
It's difficult. We've spoken about this before, but there's a bit of a tension really, because I speak with people every single day when I'm doing my GP work who are struggling with their mental health, and I'm constantly pointing them in the direction of the 3 principles. Basically just recommending books, because in a 10-minute consultation I can't do anything else, or very little, with the time that we have available. So I know, I deal with it all day long in that sort of entity, but then over here, I've gone from having my appointment book full every for the next month ahead to having an empty or not empty but relatively empty coaching business. So you've gone from one extreme to the other. It's just a way of trying to get a little bit more balance as I see it. But yeah, I'm really grateful for your thoughts around that.
Yeah, and look, I have said to my clients too, if they're growing a program that they want 100 or 200 or 300 people in that program, go get a system and a funnel and get your internet marketing down. But if we're talking about a handful of clients, maybe a couple of handfuls, we're in the beautiful position of simply going in the direction of what comes to us as a form of sharing, what comes to us as a form in the form that is most enjoyable. And I remember starting out, for me, that was a blog. I didn't want to be on camera. I was quite lonely living in Italy, not speaking the language. And I just was writing a blog that spoke about, it was mostly my change from living as a school teacher to now living this life of trying to find purpose. And that, it just made sense to me at some point to add a link at the end of that blog to say to people, and if you'd like to make a change in your career, it goes back to that key point, is the conversation is what counts. How you let people know that the conversation is available is totally on your wisdom, is totally up to you. There's no right way to do that. And so, yeah, how exciting for you, Kevin, that you're in this place now where you have space, you have energy, you have income, you have insight, and you're ready to go. So be curious about what occurs to you in order to do that. And that will be your system, by the way. That is your system, rather than this system that grows a business. That's just a load of malarkey. It's like the diet industry. It's like follow this diet. And so, people follow the diet, and then within 2 or 3 years, 98% of the participants are either heavier than they were or back to the weight they were at. Only 2% managed to have any lasting transformation. Well, that's how I'm seeing the traditional marketing tactics nowadays. That's my personal view of it nowadays. Like, follow this, do this, if you just do this. But yeah, let me see the results 2 to 3 years from now. Are you still in business or not? That's the bit we're not hearing about. So anyway, I'm going to get off my high horse there. Who else would like to ask a question or share?
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Oh. And listen, you guys, please do feel free to bring your objections. You know, if this is sounding airy-fairy, if we sound like two leprechauns, please let us know, okay? Because see, we're so ingrained in this way of growing a business. It just looks normal to us. But maybe to you guys, it looks like fairy dust, and we need to know that. You know, we want to be sharing in a way that is supportive to you, and we want to be giving you programs and help in a way that is truly beneficial to you. So don't be afraid to say, hey guys, what about this? You know, or I don't see it like that.
Yeah. Or if there's anything you've seen about what we've said that might be helpful for your business that you're seeing fresh.
Hey, Carina.
Carina.
Hi.
Hiya.
Hi, both. I don't know how this question is going to come out, but there seems to be, maybe this is in my mind, but there seems to be a real sort of, you're not going to sell to me, are you, kind of feeling, because a lot of people out there pushing their services. So how does one approach having a conversation, reassuring, well, you know, how do you both do that? With somebody who isn't in the frequencies and doesn't understand the concept, hasn't been around, you know, the whole concept of being of service and just being willing just to serve, because I'm very happy doing that, and I am at the moment without money being on my mind. But if I were to approach somebody that I know in my community or something, I sense this discomfort. I've got some thinking around, well, they're going to expect me to then try and sell to them. So I'd love to hear how you approach that.
I think for me it's a little bit like I was saying earlier. If I get into a conversation with somebody on the street and I get really curious about them and how they see the world, and they have an issue that they are obviously struggling with that they want to talk about, then without me having the weight of needing to make them into a client, I'll just have a conversation with them that might be helpful, that might, you know, with nothing on it. And then at the end of the conversation, if it seems that they are really open to more conversations, I might just say that if you want some more help with that, I that's what I do. You know, I have these conversations with people. I don't necessarily quote them a price or whatever, but I'll just leave it open to them, you know, that it's possible for them to have a conversation where they can see something differently that's going to be really, really helpful for them. So for me, it's that aspect of like treating the conversation as just being as of much service as I can. And if the possibility arises that I can help them more, if the possibility arises that they really want to be helped and they've enjoyed the conversation, then so be it. But it's not the reason for the conversation, and there's not a weight of expectation on it. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's a good question, Carina, too, because what I notice is, see, when you're totally lit up and connected to your offer, you're not selling anything. And so this discomfort about being sold to, well, first of all, that's on them, that's not on you. If you have something that you really see, and I remember George Pransky saying this to me. My business was just rocketing. When I came across, when I switched gears and I told everybody, I'm not teaching you how to make 20K a month anymore. And I lost most of the people. And when the ship started sinking, my insecurity started getting the better of me. And oh my God, was I going down fast. And I remember Judge Pransky saying to me, if you can see it, you can sell it. And it hit me between the eyes. I was like, well, I can see that people really do still need help with their business, even though I don't want to help them in a tactical way, tactic-based way. I could really see that, Carina. And within days, I turned the Titanic around. We avoided the iceberg altogether. And I offered something that I had offered in the past, but I brought fresh energy with it. And here's the thing again, if you can see it, you can sell it, yes, but you're not really selling anything when you really see that what you have is so gonna transform that person's experience. And that gets heard, by the way, over the noise of everybody pitching out there. Again, we're back to spiritual marketing. That's why your spiritual marketing, not the brilliant articulation that you do, not the incredible web page that you make, not the low price that you give or the big price that you put, none of that. That's why your spiritual marketing of alignment and loving the service you've got, seeing deeply how it helps people, not having a doubt in mind about that, means people aren't experiencing you as selling to them, but rather offering the solution to their problem that, frankly, they'll pay anything for. Now, you or I might get uncomfortable about the money or the sales or whatever. They won't. It's like a doctor, like Dr. Kevin here. If Dr. Kevin was driving past a car crash, he would stop the car and get out and see, as a doctor, what help is needed. He wouldn't say, oh God, I mean, I've got all this experience as a doctor, but I don't want the people in the car crash to think that I'm like being a bit salesy. If I ask them, do they want my help? I mean, maybe I should just let them wait for an ambulance, better help, you know? Then, do you know what I'm saying, Carina? You get what I'm saying? It's like, if you can see it, you can sell it, and you're not really selling it because it's doing all the selling for you as you go in the direction of just showing up and wanting to serve like that. I'd love to know what you're hearing. I hope that wasn't overwhelming.
No, not at all. Actually, that's really helpful because I've been very aware that I'm stuck around the charging.
Can you talk up a little bit, because I have trouble hearing you?
That's really helpful because I was stuck around the issue of charging. I think because I didn't want to come across as, you know, selling. Like I had this one experience once when I was selling children's books when my son was 2, and that felt really uncomfortable. I didn't like that sort of forced sell environment, and I didn't want to, you know, fall into that. But I think you've just hit it on the nail on the head. It's if you're really excited about what you've seen and that you know has such value, and you just are open to sharing it, full stop. If it hits, you know, if it's something that resonates with them, then they'll automatically be interested and want to know more. So it's not about me being pushy or anything. And if they're not open to having a conversation, then that's clear. It's just like, you know, but if they are, then who knows what's possible. So I think I've been, yeah.
And here's the good news. Okay, like people don't have to know what the principles are to work with you. Most of my clients have nothing to do with the principles community. Okay. But every human being recognizes a desire for well-being. And so I'm a bit less interested in, do they get the principles? Do they know the principles? Do they understand that? And I'm way more interested in do they need something I have? Have I got something they need? And if I do, it's my job to communicate that, despite my insecurity. So just, again, just, I'm a fan of people sharing their insights and what they've seen and what they can offer versus getting bogged down in the principles.
Absolutely. I remember somebody asked George Pransky what the difference was between the coaches that he'd mentored that were really, really, really successful and the ones that were kind of, doing okay. And he said the ones that were really, really, really successful were the ones that were able to convey with absolute conviction and absolute clarity that they can help the client. It's embodying that conviction to know that you can help with a particular, the particular thing that they're up against seems to be the thing that people's decisions are based on. And I don't have a problem if I've had a conversation where it appears that the client has seen something a little bit deeper about what they're up against. I don't have a problem by saying, I can help you with this. And then leave it up to them. I don't say, I can help you with this and we can do this and it's going to cost you this amount. I just like to say, I can help you with this. And they've already had an experience of being helped with that. They've already touched that space. So that's the combination of those things seems to be the most powerful. And as Grace says, there's, with most other people that are in the coaching game, they don't have that understanding going for them. And I know you personally, I know the space that you can hold, and so that's a given, I think.
Yeah. And when you're starting out, because some of you are just starting out, it can be hard to have conviction in your service when you're not yet working with people regularly and seeing the transformation in their experience. And this is why part of what Stef and I really want to bring to the table on the spiritual marketing retreat is being able to have conviction by seeing clearly and deeply what you offer. As you start working with people, it'll be so obvious. It'll be so obvious the change on offer, the transformation, the results. But if you're not at that space, if you're not working with people regularly, the beauty of the spiritual marketing approach that is simple and easy is that we look to having you clearly define the offer that lights you up, that you love, that you're passionate to bring out to the world. Going back to George Pransky, if you can see it, you can sell it. So you don't have to wait for an influx of clients before you can see it. We're happy to keep going here. Stef, are we? We understand we're at the top of the hour. If you need to go, by all means go. Please do stay in touch with us if you're interested in attending our upcoming spiritual marketing retreat. We have a special bonus offer today for those of you that are interested. We will be throwing in our 6-week Mean Your Message course. So that is 6 full weeks of enjoying and experiencing the Mean Your Message coaching course to help you with your messaging and all other sorts of things. If you're already on the spiritual marketing retreat with us, we'll make sure you get that bonus too, don't worry. So do check out the link that I've sent you. If you want to stay, we're here. We're not rushing. So if you have a question or if you want to know more, please let me know. Please let Steph know. Nita's saying, thanks, Grace and Steph, for a great session. Love to catch the recording. Carina, unfortunately to go, but I catch the end of the recording. Super helpful. No problem. Anybody else want to share? Kevin's got to go. No problem, Kevin. Nice to see you. We love your questions, so don't be afraid to question us or anything you want to comment on or you're curious about. Hey, Christina. Oh.
Hi, I'm just trying to start my video there. Hi, Grace and Steph.
Good to see you.
Hi, Christina.
Nice to see you too. I have a question. If that's, it sounds like there's still a little bit of time for that.
Perfect, yeah.
So let's see. Grace, when you were speaking earlier about if you can see it, you can sell it. And I think your comments after that were also helpful. But I think for me right now, the only thing I can see is that I think I'm ready to do something, but the form of that, the scale of that, all of the rest of it isn't clear. So I'm wondering if there are any, what I've heard in both of your sharing is like, start talking to people and start trying things. And I guess I'm just wondering if both of you could speak to that place of like, I guess I see that I'm ready for something, but everything else beyond that is a bit cloudy.
Steph, do you want to share?
When you say you're ready for something, do you know whether you want to coach? Is coaching what you want to do?
I really don't know. I've had a few, I guess you could call them coaching calls with people who are like in my organization, and they've been interesting, but I'm not sure that's the path. So maybe.
Okay. So I guess for me, it goes back to getting in touch with what lights you up. And that might mean trying different things. It might mean, doing coaching, or it might mean, sort of mentoring, or it might be all sorts of different things that are involved with people. I take it's you want to be of service somehow. Is that true? So to me, there is something inside of us that is telling us what brings us joy, what lights us up, what brings us inspiration. And at this stage, at your stage, I would really spend some time getting quiet and just looking in the direction of what you enjoy, or what you think you might enjoy. I know for me, it took a little while for my insecurity to get out of the way, and then just see how much fun I was having but just the sheer joy of being in conversation for me is enough, but I know now, after having so many things, doing so many different things in my life, I know now that whatever it is that brings joy, whatever it is that makes me feel inspired and excites me, that is the direction to look in.
And you have a bit more clarity, Christina, than you give yourself credit for. Guys, I know Christina because we work together as well, and your vision around holding space for people, you know, your vision around creating space where people come into it and are, whether you're in charge of the conversation or maybe you're collaborating with someone else who's in charge or whatever. You know, I think that the clarity around knowing that bringing people together is what you want to do as part of your direction. There's something about that that you can trust. And I might go on to say, don't wait. You don't have to wait for the world to open up to do that. You know, you don't have to have the perfect space physically to do that. I remember in the early days for me, when I was a school teacher in London, and what I used to do is I used to just do a Friday night meetup group. You know, I wanted to be in the experience of bringing people together. And I wasn't showing up as an expert or a coach or anything like that. I just wanted to be in conversation about anything other than my crap job. And so we would, you know, talk about spirituality. We would talk about, I don't know, health. We would talk about different things. It was a little meetup group that I did. And I know that as of now, meetup groups are available online like this as a connection via Zoom. Now, I'm not saying, you know, go do that, Christina. But you know, you can trust your readiness is getting hotter and hotter and hotter because you're closer and closer and closer. And there's something about orientating yourself to wonder what life's inviting me to now. You know, wonder what life's going to invite me to, rather than I need to define this exact thing that's going to give me joy. So, you know, is that you? Oh, sorry, Stef, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I again, this is just me. And my experience is that you kind of already know. You already know. It's a question of allowing yourself to uncover it. And that can be a beautiful thing. And also to do it your way, to do it Christina's way. Don't try and find somebody else who's already done it and try and follow a template. Do whatever occurs to you when it occurs to you. Because your way, your flavor is exactly what's needed. Exactly
helpful?
What's needed. Yeah.
What are you hearing that, Christina?
Yes, that's helpful. Thank you. I guess it's what I'm hearing in that is sort of like trusting that what I have to offer, it will be like, I guess trusting that I'll see it and it will unfold in the way that it needs to. And that I can do it in my own way, Stef, as you were just saying that.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the only way I can do it. But
here's the thing is that when it was down to me, when I had the responsibility of following the whisperings and following the, you know, the inspiration, when it was, the responsibility was mine to make it work, that was hard work. What I would really love for you is that you could, instead of feeling curious, instead of feeling responsibility for what your path is going to be, I would just get curious about what life wants to create through you. We can be curious as opposed to feeling the weight of the responsibility. All we have to do is just take one step at a time. And that to me makes it feels so much lighter for me to just just look in the direction of what life, as Grace was saying, what life is inviting us to see, what life wants to create through us. Because that is what's going to make the most difference.
Yeah, and there's something about, at least from what I've noticed, there's something about when you're searching that you like you said, Steph, you want to get quiet in your search, because our searching is, as you might notice, effortful. Our searching for what it is we've got and what it is we can give and what it is we're supposed to be doing can really feel heavy. And I've just noticed over time, any self-initiated plans never really fall into flow for people. That's not just personal, that's like there's something about self-initiated plans that are just so much weaker than, as you said, Steph, what life creating through us.
Yeah.
Now, there is a difference between a level of clarity we come to because the clouds clear and the insecurities quieten down and we're coming from a fresh state of mind and we get an idea. That's okay, run with that. Self-initiated plans to me are when we're overthinking and using the intellect to think up what we should do just because we feel that urgency to just bloody well do anything or get something going.
It goes back to what Sid was saying, and all the information we need is in the feeling. You know, when there's engagement, when there's inspiration, when there's passion, when there's joy, when there's connection, you know we're on the right track.
Christina just messaged, sorry, my internet cut out. Looking forward to the replay. Thanks for taking my question. Well, it must have cut out at the right time.
Yeah.
We asked her to get quiet.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, if there is another question or a comment, we'll take it now. Otherwise, we'll start signing off, guys.
Yeah.
Please let us know if you have something you want to share.
Hi, Grace. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Marie-Pierre. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I have
You
a
got
question.
a question? Go ahead.
What when I have people coming to me asking me, okay, I have two people coming to me asking me support with their business regarding their helping them finding their niche and crafting offers for them. So it's pretty much like they ask like a step-by-step and a clear process. Like it's more like a mechanic way of doing things. Like, you know, you do this and then after you do that and you go through this process and through these questions. And I don't know why, but people come to me for this very structured way of doing things. And they are not really open to deep conversations. Does that make sense? So
what's your question around that, if you have one?
I don't know if I have a question. I guess I don't know how to I don't know if I like if I stay in the more like step by step a more mechanic way of doing things, or if because I can see like the opening in what you're doing, like the deeper conversations. And when I serve people, it's like they don't want to go there, they just want the results. So like, just give me the step-by-step thing to create an offer, just give me the step-by-step to find my ideal client.
Well, I think you have a choice, Marie-Pierre. I mean, you can do that and give people that, and you could just choose to work with a client that knows that's not where the result comes from. Like, you don't have to work with everybody that comes along, you know. Like, you get to have the deeper conversation if that's what you prefer, and you might say to someone, as I have had to say many times, again, it's totally up to you, but you know, here's why I don't do step-by-step formulas. This is what I do instead. If that doesn't interest you, that's okay. I can refer you to somebody else, but you know, there's a level of educating your marketplace a little bit on why you do the deeper work versus the fast thing that really doesn't go anywhere. But equally, you don't have to educate them. You can just choose to work with the people who are more interested in a deeper conversation. So you got a choice.
It helps, actually, yes.
I think, as Grace says, there's in every objection we get, there's the opportunity to illustrate a teaching point. So, I mean, I don't know, because I'm not in your world, but to me, people buy from people. And so whatever the conversation is, whatever the message is, the more personal it is, the more targeted around that person's concerns or whatever, the more powerful it is. And I think partly some of the problem with marketing over the years, especially with social media, is it's just become like a scattergun approach, where we're trying to get as many people interested as possible with the most generic message, you know. And so yeah, I think what Grace says is true. I think there's the possibility of doing it that way, but there's also the possibility of having a deeper conversation around what's more powerful, about what other options are available.
And it's similar to, you know, Marie-Pierre, like for example, with our spiritual marketing retreat and course and all the pieces we do around this. Like, we don't really attract people who are stuck on give me the formula, because what we're sharing is pointing to a much deeper place where we have seen results truly come from. So there's a level of, in your sharing, you know, people start to realize, oh, this is for me. And in your sharing, people start to realize, oh, this isn't for me. You know, like, in other words, you know, wherever you feel you want to come from, will inform the people who decide to come to you. So I don't get anybody nowadays coming to me and saying, could you just show me how to make X amount of money in X amount of time? Could you just show me how to brand my website? Could you just show me how to use Instagram or Facebook? Like, nobody asks me that question anymore, because in all my sharing, it's so obvious that's not what you want to come to me and ask me about. We're pointing,
yes,
pointing to something deeper.
Totally. Okay, I do get it. That makes sense. Thank you, Grace. I mean, thank you, Steph and Grace. Yeah,
What did you get? Tell us what you got before we close. What made sense?
It makes sense that your sharing is in like a reflection of the work you're offering. So if I start to share about more deeper meaning and deeper conversation, like, can you hear me?
Yes.
So yes, I do see like the mirror effect between your sharing and your teaching. I mean, it's like yes, it's so obvious now.
That's cool.
That's wonderful. I see
really
that's
cool.
what you're looking for, something that
Yeah.
becomes obvious.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marie-Pierre.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Alrighty. Well, I think we will stop there, Steph. We've gone for nearly an hour and a half. I'm getting lovely feedback from people here. Thank you for sending your messages in, Robin. We just saw your message too, and we're so glad this is helpful. We're so grateful to share in a way that is passionate for us. You know, it's just easy, and we're glad that it lands. We're glad that it becomes obvious as you listen to us what you need to do. We know it settles you down into your own experience of spiritual marketing that you have within you. So do get in touch if you'd like more information to go a bit deeper with us. We have this incredible 3-day experience coming up in November, and we will love to take you there. We'd love to take you to a whole new level in your way of operating, in your way of doing business, and just in your way of enjoyment with your business versus the hard slog of trying to find clients to have conversations with. Like, yeah. that's not how it's meant to be. So get in touch, gracefulcoaching@gmail.com. We can send you the retreat link page. You can join us. You can get an incredible bonus offer for joining up today. And we look forward to seeing you next time. All righty.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.